Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. What have you sent this one in, wanting to really get into all those big themes and, how it still matters today? Which, well, it's interesting because it really does, even though it's set way back in Puritan America.
Yeah. It's almost like a secret window into 17th century Puritan society.
Right.
And you know what's really cool?
What?
Hawthorne uses, fiction, a made-up story, to get at these real anxieties and contradictions, all these things they were struggling with back then.
Totally. And right away, boom, Hawthorne throws us into this scene that's just dripping with symbolism. You've got this prison door. He describes it as this massive, iron-studded, heavy thing.
Ugh, it's just like oppression, just that image.
It just screams it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then right next to the symbol of, total punishment, there's this wild rose bush.
Right.
Just in full bloom.
I know. It's so strange, right?
It's like beauty and harshness all smashed together.
It really is.
So, okay, listener, I have to ask you, when you read that opening scene, what hit you first? Was it the prison, the rose, or was it something else entirely? Because for me, it just raises this big question. What happens when, natural human desires, what people just want, slam right into these strict societal rules, the things everyone's supposed to follow?
Ooh, good question. And then, boom, you've got Hester Prynne walking onto the scaffold. She's got her baby, Pearl, and that scarlet letter A just blazing on her chin.
It's like she's not just being shamed. She's a whole public spectacle. It's a performance.
Exactly.
And it makes me think Hawthorne is kind of asking, how much public shame is enough? At what point is it too much? And who even gets to decide? Because Hester's sin, her mistake, is right there for everyone to see. But what about all the secrets that everyone else is hiding?
Oh, good point. And speaking of secrets, that mystery of Pearl's father is like this huge engine driving the whole story. I mean, Hester refuses to name him, and that silence, that choice to stay quiet, well, it says so much.
Right. Is she protecting him? Is it defiance? Love? Fear, maybe? And I wonder, how does her silence, that choice, hit the people around her, especially Dimmesdale?
Yeah, and that's where things get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Dimmesdale, this revered minister, the guy everyone looks up to, he's just torn apart inside by his secret. Outwardly, he's all piety and righteousness, he's got it all together. Yeah. But inside, he's just crumbling under the weight of, well, what he's hiding, his sin.
It's like Hawthorne's flipping the whole idea of sin on its head. It's like Hester's is visible, right there, for everyone to judge. But Dimmesdale stays hidden. It's festering under the surface. It makes you wonder, does that make one sin worse than the other?
It's a really good question.
It's all about appearances, right?
Right.
And then we have Roger Chillingworth, Hester's husband, right? He comes to Boston looking for revenge. But, well, that search for revenge, it warps him, changes him into something dark.
It really does. It's like he starts out as this wronged husband, completely understandable, right?
Right.
But he ends up being this, almost demonic figure. Hawthorne even describes him as physically, deformed, almost as if the obsession with revenge is eating away at him from the inside out.
It's true. And the way he just inserts himself into Dimmesdale's life, he becomes his doctor, his confidant. I mean, it's chilling.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's not just after revenge. He's playing a game with Dimmesdale, mentally torturing him a little bit at a time.
Yeah. And Dimmesdale's completely clueless about who Chillingworth really is, right? He can sense this evil presence, but he thinks it's all his own guilt, not the guy who's supposed to be helping him.
It's true.
Yeah.
It adds this whole other layer to the idea of sin in the story. Dimmesdale's sin is invisible to everyone else, but it's always there, eating at him.
Yeah.
And Chillingworth, well, he's right there fanning the flames, making it worse.
It's a scary thought. And it makes you wonder, if Chillingworth hadn't come along, would Dimmesdale have eventually confessed on his own? Or would he just keep suffering silently forever?
I know. Right. Is public confession the only way to be redeemed? Or can anyone find redemption inside without everyone else judging you?
I don't know. It's a good question. And then there's the forest. It's this place outside the rules of Puritan society, a place where they can all be a bit more honest.
It's like the forest represents this mental space.
Yeah.
Where secrets can come out and people can be real with each other.
Yeah. And the symbolism there is so powerful. The way the sunlight comes through the trees, making these patches of light and shadow.
Yeah.
It's like the forest is mirroring what's happening inside them,
Exactly.
Their struggles.
And then there's Pearl, who's just thriving in the forest.
Mm.
She's so connected to nature, like completely free. It's almost like she doesn't even get the rules and restrictions of the Puritan world.
No, she doesn't, and that's what makes her so powerful.
Right.
Remember that scene by the brook? When Hester and Dimmesdale meet secretly? Pearl just refuses to come to Dimmesdale unless he acknowledges Hester publicly.
Right, like she can just feel it. Like there's something wrong with their secret relationship,
Yeah.
and she won't have it. She wants honesty, even if it breaks all their rules.
And that scene, you know what? It foreshadows what's going to happen.
Oh, totally.
Dimmesdale can't keep living a lie. His guilt and, Chillingworth's little mind games eventually force him to make that big confession on the scaffold.
It's true. I love how even in this first part of the Scarlet Letter, Hawthorne sets us up for so much. We've got these characters who are dealing with huge things: sin, hypocrisy, revenge, like the need to fit in, and it's all happening in this society that's just so restrictive.
Yeah. It makes you think, how much has really changed since then? What are the Scarlet Letters we still wear today?
Yeah.
How do we judge and shut out people who don't fit in?
Good questions. We're going to dive into all that as we unpack the rest of this incredible book.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Chillingworth and how, like, his sense of justice is so messed up.
Totally. It's like he becomes the very thing he wants to punish.
Exactly. He starts as this wronged husband, which, you kind of get it.
Right.
But then he turns into, like, this almost demonic figure.
Yeah.
Hawthorne even describes him as physically, like, warping, becoming deformed.
Oh, I know. It's like his obsession is literally eating him alive.
Yeah. And the way he just gets into Dimmesdale's life, becoming his doctor, his confidant, it's scary.
It's so creepy.
He's not just going for revenge. He's torturing him, like, psychologically, bit by bit.
Totally. It's like a slow burn. And Dimmesdale doesn't even know who he is.
Right.
I mean, he can sense something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
But he thinks it's his own guilt. He doesn't suspect the guy who's supposed to be helping him.
Yeah, it's like this whole other level of sin in the book, right?
Right.
Like, Dimmesdale's sin is invisible to everyone else, but it's eating at him constantly.
And Chillingworth's right there, making it so much worse.
Poking at it, yeah. It makes you wonder, like, what if Chillingworth had just stayed away? Would Dimmesdale have come clean on his own eventually? Or would he have just carried that forever?
That's a good question. It makes you think, is public confession the only way to really find redemption?
Right. Or can it happen inside you without everyone else knowing, judging you?
And then there's the forest. Right. It's like this space outside of all the rules of Puritan society.
Right.
Where the characters can, be more honest.
It's like it represents a mental space, too.
Right.
Like a place where secrets can come out and people can actually be real with each other.
Totally. And, the symbolism.
I know.
The way Hawthorne describes the sunlight coming through the trees, like creating these patches of light and shadow.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the forest itself is a mirror of what's going on inside them, all their struggles.
So true. And Pearl, she's just in her element in the forest.
Yes. Right.
Like, she's so connected to nature, so free. It's almost like she just doesn't even understand the rules of the Puritan world.
She doesn't, and that's what makes her so fascinating. Remember that scene by the brook when Hester and Dimmesdale meet secretly?
Oh, yeah.
And Pearl just refuses to go to Dimmesdale unless he acknowledges Hester, like publicly.
It's like she just knows intuitively that there's something wrong with their little secret rendezvous.
She does.
She demands honesty from them, even if it means breaking all the rules.
And you know what? That scene, it kind of hints at what's going to happen. Dimmesdale, he just can't keep living a lie.
It's true.
All that guilt and Chillingworth's, messing with his head, it pushes him to make that huge confession on the scaffold.
Oh, that scene. So powerful. He could have just run away with Hester and Pearl. He could have had a new life, away from all the judgment.
I know. But he doesn't. He chooses to face it. He takes responsibility.
It's such a turning point, It just raises all these questions about redemption. Like, what does it really mean?
Totally. Some people see his confession as like a tragic end, a giving in to guilt and what society expects of him. But others see it as like a release, a way to finally find peace.
Yeah, and it's interesting that even when he's confessing, Hester and Pearl are right there beside him.
I know. They're a family, bound together by this whole shared experience, even as Dimmesdale's dying.
And then, after everything that happens, Hester decides to go back to Boston.
I know, it's surprising, right?
She could have started over anywhere, but she goes back to the place where they shunned her.
It's a powerful choice. She's not running from her past.
No, she owns it. And in doing that, she changes what that Scarlet Letter means.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about shame anymore.
It's about her strength, her resilience.
And even eventually her compassion.
Yes. People start to see her differently. They see her wisdom. They ask for her advice.
It's true. The letter becomes about what she's been through, not about her sin.
Yeah, it's like she takes it back. It empowers her.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Right.
There's still sadness there.
Yeah.
This memory of all the pain and loss. And we don't really know what happens to Pearl, which kind of suggests that, the past, it can affect future generations.
It can. It's a reminder that even when we find peace or redemption or whatever you want to call it, the past is still part of us.
Right.
It makes you think about the scarlet letters we all carry. Those hidden things, experiences, traumas, choices, maybe.
Absolutely.
Things that have shaped us.
Yeah. We were just talking about how Hester, she reclaims that Scarlet Letter.
Yeah, like she takes this thing that was supposed to isolate her, make her an outcast.
Right.
And she uses it to connect with people.
I know, but think about that. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like wearing your deepest shame openly.
Right.
Not because you're being punished, but because it's part of who you are.
I think, well, on one level, it just shows how strong she is, how resilient. But I also think it points to something bigger, like about how we judge each other and how we forgive.
Reading the Scarlet Letter, I kept thinking about all the scarlet letters we still have today.
Oh, totally.
Maybe not like actual letters on our clothes.
Yeah.
But these invisible marks that society uses to label us.
Absolutely. It could be anything, really. A past mistake, some personal thing you're struggling with, a belief that people don't like.
Right.
Anything that makes you different, that makes you stand out from what everyone thinks is normal.
Exactly. And it's not just about those big things either, right? It's like even those little judgments we make about each other every day.
Oh, I know.
Just assumptions based on how someone looks or what you heard about them.
Totally.
It's like we all have these internal scarlet letters too,
Oh, for sure.
Ways we judge ourselves, hold ourselves back.
Yeah, cool.
So if the Scarlet Letter is like holding up this mirror to us, to society,
yeah.
what are we seeing? Like, have we really come that far from those Puritan times?
That's the big question, isn't it? We like to think we're more tolerant, more accepting.
Right.
But Hawthorne's story, I think it makes us face the ways we still judge and exclude people.
It's so true.
It really is.
And maybe that's like the real power of the Scarlet Letter. It's not just some historical novel. It's like a challenge to look at ourselves
Yeah.
and our own biases.
Our prejudices, how we treat people who are different.
Yeah. Like, how do we react to people who've messed up or who don't fit in?
Exactly. Do we show them compassion,
Yeah.
understanding, or do we just make things harder for them?
I think that's a question we all have to answer for ourselves.
It is.
And maybe that's what makes this book still so relevant. It's not just about Hester Prynne and Puritan America. It's about us.
Yeah, it really is about all of us.
It's about seeing our shared humanity,
Absolutely.
accepting that we're not perfect and finding ways to connect beyond all the labels and judgments.
I love that.
So that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Scarlet Letter. I want to thank you, listener, for sending this book in. It's been a great conversation. I hope you got some new insights from it, and, well, maybe it'll make you think about those scarlet letters in your own life.
It's been such a fascinating journey. And remember, the conversation doesn't stop here. Keep thinking, keep asking questions, and keep reading.